Basically, the plan is to, for the next 20 minutes, go over general updates of units of competency. So these updates come frequently, but not so frequently in the sort of first aid space, right? I think the last sets of units, how long have they been around, Katie? About 5, 6 years, 7 years? I don't know, a long time. I think.
The other units of competencies, I can't remember, 13 years?
Yeah.
Oh, no, before me.
Even longer, yes, it's such a long time. So they just stayed the same for quite some time. Those organizations that manage qualifications that have maybe 20, 30, or even 100 units of competency, they're constantly dealing with the issues of changing units over. Whereas that's not really the case for first aid organizations. So I'm going to focus on units of competency generally for the first 20 minutes. And then we're going to dive into, or generally with first aid as an example, and then dive into how you use course sales and how you use course sales to update those units of competencies. So the units of competencies updated not too long ago, I think probably about 6 months ago. And some organizations have already transitioned. I know Katie's on the line, so she's already transitioned across. So she's no doubt going to give us a bit of input as to what worked for her and what didn't work for her. And I've sort of used her as a soundboard with some of my ideas as well that I wanted to get across here. So hopefully we're all in alignment.
Super.
Okay, so hopefully you can see those slides okay? Updating units of competence. No. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so the contents that I'm going to bring into how to know when a unit changes. So how the heck do you know if the unit's actually going to change or has changed? Recommend the steps to change. I've got some tips. Some of the update steps that I suggest you take, and these are generic update steps that are applicable in any case, and also some questions. And I've got a bit of a quiz at the end to test your knowledge and see if you paid attention. So no sleeping on the job, okay, guys?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so how to know when a unit changes. So the unit of competency is changed by ASQA, and it's actually done by there's a body. I think they're called the First Aid Association Committee or something along those lines. I've got the names at the end of the slides. But they're a group of people who represent people in industry who recommend the changes that they want to have occur within the specific units and how to update them and ideally improve them is I guess the concept that they're trying to achieve. So you can go on to Training.gov.au and you should have a login for Training.gov.au. If not, just sign up. You can easily sign up for one. And you can ask to be notified of changes. And so you can go to those specific units, or you can even notify changes for all of the courses all of the units that are within your scope of your organization. So if you go to your organization page, you can actually be notified of changes to other organizations as well. So if you want to spy on one of your competitors, you can ask to be notified. And you get notified of not just unit changes, which you can opt out of, but also changes that are recorded in Training.gov.au for that particular competitor. So you could monitor your competitor and see if they decided to increase their scope, for example. Could be a good way to get a bit of insight into what's going on in the market. But in this case, we're talking about being notified of the unit changes so you can ensure you prepare for any changes going forward so that you've got the most up-to-date units of competency being offered to your students. So definitely go on to train.gov.au and do that. So what has changed? So this is specifically around the first aid unit changes. So these are the changes that have occurred. And I've also included a few units or modules that I know some first aid organizations deliver, but these have not changed. And these are course modules down the bottom though. So the VU units of competency that I mentioned there, or they're not actually units of competency, they're actually called modules. So they're a little bit different to units of competency, but there was no change for those. So hopefully you're familiar with those. There's some gaps in there. I don't know if there are expiry dates for the 101 or what was the 002.
I think 3 years for 010, Scott.
Is it 3 years for that one as well? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 years for that 002/101 010, which is the new unit.
And the confusing one is 015, where it's every year for provide advanced resuscitation, but now that it incorporates first aid into that, that expires every 3 years.
Ah, right, I see. Okay. So theoretically, if you keep up to date with your 015, then you don't have to do your 011.
You still have to do it every 3 years. See, that's where they really haven't thought about it.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. You see, things that they haven't thought about. Okay, keep that in mind then. If you're talking to customers, you might have to sort of work out what sort of answer you want to give them.
Confuse them.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the main changes with regards to the units. So the recommended steps for change. First of all, get ASQA approval. Start that process early. So you can still do some of the other things, some of them, not all of them, some of them, even though you haven't got ASQA approval, mainly because ASQA approval might take a little bit of time. So it might not be super quick. So update course materials. I believe you have to do that only if you've actually got the accreditation yourself. So you could actually go out and get the accreditation for those units if you need to, and then update the course materials, the quizzes, the questions, sort of marking sheets and things like that. But even before you've got ASQA approval, I assume that's correct, isn't it, Katie? I can't see why you can't update the materials if you're a trainer with the qualifications here. Upgrade trainer qualifications. I guess that should be in the other order. So number 3 should probably be done before number 2. Update marketing material. Anyone can do that. I don't think you need any special qualification for that, other than maybe word expertise. Update your student management system. You can update course sales and any student management system for that matter whenever you want. There's no real restriction on doing that. It's just about advertising. You can't go and then start to advertise those courses and take enrollments on them. So there's nothing wrong with updating course sales even before you've got the ASQA approval, and then you're ready to go basically once you get the approval. And then you want to create new course dates. So once you've got all your courses set up, you've updated it all, you're ready to go. Creating new course dates within course sales then creates or makes those live, makes those public, so you can start taking some bookings. So here's a little sort of flow chart. Are you ready to change? So that is to change as in to start taking bookings. So you can just use this as a bit of a step. Do you have any units on scope? And you can check that by going onto Train.gov.au. If you have them listed, then you're good to go. If you don't, you're not ready yet. Are your trainers ready to deliver the new units? That is to say, have they got those units of competency on there as a certification themselves? But also, have they got familiar with the course materials too? So are they prepared to start the new units? And if not, then no, you're not ready. Do your customers, are they requesting the new units? I think this is a pretty easy decision in the first aid situation where your customers are just going to roll over to the new ones. But for other training organizations, it is worthwhile going, okay, is there any demand? Because there is a cost associated with developing new course materials, updating course materials, and you really have to decide if it's financially worthwhile for you to do that. But I think in this case, it's all going to be yes for your customers. Are your students partway through studying at any given time? So this is more for units that maybe take a long time for delivery, maybe not so relevant for first aid because there's usually done within the same day. But if you've got students who are partway through the qualification, then basically changing the unit at that particular time might not be such a good idea because, of course, the student has to complete that unit before they're able to continue on their way. So might be worthwhile pausing that. And then finally, are your course materials ready and approved? If they're not, then you're not ready to launch and start taking customers. Once you get all the way down that list and get to ready to release, then you're good to go. How does that sound? Any comments or questions about that?
No, it's good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here's some tips. Definitely prepare before releasing the new units. Just think of all the things, and hopefully these slides will help you, but think of the things that might hold you back, things that would make it easier, things that you might not have updated for a while, you might need to revisit look at. I need things like websites and web pages. If they've stayed constant for the past 13 years because I've had the same unit, then it's not something you're going to go in and do very frequently. So keep that in mind. Consider the fact that you might need to run the old and the new units together. Again, I don't know if there's going to be customers out there that really do want to stick to the old units. Some people find change difficult and may therefore demand, no, you said you were going to deliver me the HLTAID001. I want that unit. So there might be some demanding customers out there that seem a little bit crazy, but yeah, go with the flow. Because there is a transition period. There's a transition period. I'm not sure how long it's for. Is it 9 or 12 months? This transition period where you can run both units.
I thought it was about a year.
About a year. Yeah, I suspect it is. And that expiry date is actually listed on the Train.gov.au website as well. So you need to check that. You can feel free to do that. And consider the fact that there might actually be a mixture of students who are doing the different units. It's possible that it's that someone comes back who hasn't completed a particular unit and wants to complete that unit. So it is possible, I guess, in some instances where you have students who are doing the new unit and some students doing the old unit, and keep that in mind of what you have to do about that. And then make sure you test and check all the steps in awarding the unit. So make sure the form that's being filled out, like even things like the sign-in form, make sure they've all got the right information on them. And that's mainly for consistency purposes, to avoid an auditor coming in and checking and going, well, wait a minute, you said this was a 008, but on here it's got a different unit on the sign-in sheet. So you sure these students, and it's to avoid any of those sorts of questions. So just make sure that everything's consistent. And so test everything and just be extra vigilant during the first few deliveries. And then finally, not finally, but do ask, do I need to upgrade yet? There's nothing wrong with holding back. If you feel as though it's not going to have an adverse effect on you financially, you're still going to be able to deliver your business as you would normally. You don't need to rush into it. Sometimes letting other people go first and sort of move fast and break things is a better way to go than just following along quickly. Wait until they've got everything sorted. And then maybe even if you're using contract trainers, for example, there may be more contract trainers out there further on in the piece who have got the right qualifications to deliver. So that makes just life a little bit easier. And remember to create course materials. You need the qualifications, okay? So the trainers need to be qualified in those units to be able to develop those course materials and deliver the training courses. So just keep that in mind. Any questions there on the tips?
Nope.
No, good.
Okay, good. Here's some more tips. So try and keep old and new unit courses separate. So do try and keep them separate so ideally, if you could specify a particular date and from then on you run the new courses, that would be the perfect way to work. But if you can't, at least try and be very clear to the trainers which courses you're running, because if you do have a change in criteria that you're testing students against, that's pretty important to do as well. And be very clear which students are attending which course. I talked about auditing, managing the transition. I've done that. And remember, you're going to be an expert in this when it comes to these units. Customers have no idea. They will have no idea. You'll have to have a little spiel about what you tell them when they question, why am I being put on this type of course when I thought I was going on this one? Only the identifiers change, but for some reason they'll get hung up on it. So just be prepared with some ready set answers. Have you had any pushback, Katie, with your transition to the new courses?
Oh, just some people confuse 001 to 010. So once I explained, and so, do you know, some people are actually scared to do the new courses. It was really strange. It's like, hang on.
it's like, are your trainers really able to do it? Because First Aid changes that much, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah. And I've just put in there rewriting observational checklists as well, which you might have, which Katie mentioned to me before I started the presentation, which I thought was worthwhile putting in. So these are the update steps. We suggest you take new enrollments on the new units and then complete all existing courses with the old units. So ideally, if you're going to do a transition, you transition at that point, like I was saying, where you say basically from this date on, that's all the new units, and all the past units, they're using the old units. That would be an ideal way to do it. A new course modules for new. We're going to create new course modules for new units. Okay, so we're not going to go and you're right there, Katie. You sound like
I've just got to get the door. Sorry, Scott.
I've just muted Katie, so we don't hear the dog in the door. And we're going to create new courses, and you can even transfer students to the new courses if necessary. So let's say you have 5 people booked on a course. You decide that that's actually after the date you've decided, right, we're going to be changing to the new units. You can actually transfer people from that old course, or from that course that's in the future but using the old units, into the new course, and then the new units will be applied to those students. So there's nothing wrong with doing that as well, and that's definitely possible. And then finally, like I said, taking new enrollments on new courses, but we'll repeat there, but you get the general idea. Okay, so that's the first part. I'm going to do a quick quiz now to keep you guys up to date and testing how well you were listening. Here we go. This is the first quiz. Where should you go to know about updates to units?
A.
We've got an A being suggested.
Training.gov. Yeah.
Do you have an audio?
Sorry, I just unmuted. Yes,
right.
training.gov is where you go to
That's
check.
the one. Oh, look, there's the alarm going. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's the alarm going.
No.
There we go. So you can actually go to training.gov, or you just get those notifications. That's pretty cool. You don't have to remember to go to training.gov. If you sign up to get notifications, then they're going to tell you. Or, you know, if you happen to have your RTO consultant there, you know, they might charge you an hour's worth of effort, but you can get information from them as well. So those are the places. Okay, here we go. Another 20-second quiz. You get ready, everybody. There we go. What's least likely to change?
Probably the B, is it?
Which of the following are least likely to change?
The unit. No.
Unit identifier. Well, that's going to change, isn't it?
A or C.
I've got
I reckon as unit name. This is a non-scientific quiz. I kind of thought, the way I've seen it, most updates seem to be an update to the ID, and then the topics covered and the elements and performance criteria. Those are the things that change. But the unit name tends to stay the same. They might have a little bracket afterwards saying release 1, release 2, release 3 or something, but really the actual unit name is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
That was more of a fun. So, next one.
Fun in exams, Scott.
Yeah, you're ready. I just like the idea of, putting a bit of pressure. Okay, you ready, guys? Here we go. Oh.
Which of the following do you not need to consider when changing a unit?
D.
D.
Demand for that unit commissions.
D.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely D, right?
Yeah.
That better be right, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
obviously, okay. Well, the trainers may not agree with the change. Of course, they don't have control of the changes. I mean, we often talk about students being a challenge, but I think you'd all agree that trainers can be a challenge as well with regards to trying to get that that working. I know that my experience is that trainers, they have it's almost religious for them. No, they should not have changed that paragraph. That paragraph was perfectly fine.
Yep.
or they complain that they didn't change something they should have done. That's the other. Okay, here we go. I think this is the last question. Ready? Get ready.
B.
Which are not going to be impacted by the change expiry date.
Oh, not going to be
Is it
impacted.
Not
C
going to
or-
be impacted. Well, certificates are because the units are going to change.
The certificates are different. Everything's different in Abbott Miss because it's a different code. So it must be expiry dates. They pretty much haven't changed.
Performance, evidence, and assessment.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. It's not, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Now, but I believe I'm right about that. I don't think the state. I think it's the states that choose when those.
And each department, like the childcare sector, choose what they want to do for some of those other units of competencies that don't come from the health training package.
Right. So it's actually more than just a state government thing. It's actually down to individual, departments or entities.
And doctors only have to do CPR every trimester, every 3 years. So yeah, there's different regulatory bodies on that, which is strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon.
Well, they
so
should.
If someone's going to do CPR, I'm going to say, as long as you're not a doctor.
Yeah, I'm out of practice. Yep. Yep.
Okay, and then finally, I've got some activities here, and you can sort of take. I'm going to make this. This is going to form a YouTube video, so you can go and have a look at this then. But yeah, this is just activities that you might want to do, just to try out. Just you can keep aware of the units that are likely to change for you. If you've got a bit of a schedule for this, then you can just a table that lists all the units and the likely expiry of them, or when they were last approved, and therefore give you a bit of an idea of, if it's been 13 years, they're likely to come up for renewal soon. And sometimes you can even be told that I believe they do have sort of schedules for when they're going to be updating these things as well. Anyway, I'm gonna move past this slide now, so you guys can. It's like stuff you get to do for homework, okay? So
I'm so not doing my homework.
take a photo, and you can do it for homework, and next week you can bring it. So yeah, I found that the First Aid Industry Reference Committee is the group who basically have instigated this change, and they engaged a private organisation to rewrite the course modules. So that's who you can complain to.
Okay.
But Katie mentioned the National Institute of First Aid Trainers was pretty good.
Yeah, so they're good. Have you guys gotten on? Are you doing first aid? Because they're really they make their money out of training, like educating you, which is pretty good.